morning, evening, afternoon, depending on when you're watching this, everyone. I am Alex Fournette. Welcome to another segment of Flyera. Again, a Flyera. Originally, I was not going to be doing one of these episodes so soon. I probably had another almost 2 weeks before I considered doing our third installment. But we got some big news this week. Sounds like the Flyers could be getting an ace in the hole coming a little bit sooner than originally expected. Matvei Michkov, Flyers number 7 overall pick from the 2023 draft, is expected to come over a lot sooner than originally projected. And we got a big discussion to have about this tonight. Introducing, it's not just me tonight. I got my usual compadres with me. Introducing first the seasoned vet of the Flyers nitty gritty. We have Jamey Baskow.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you doing? I love the Gochikov, and I'm having a good day for Matvei. We having a good hair day. Good hair day. Look at my hair.
Blame the closet Habs fan part, though. We're gonna have to talk about that afterwards.
Yeah, we will. We will. But nonetheless, I'm having a good hair day for Matvei.
Yeah, I can't say I'm having the same. And then we have the young up-and-coming prospect, Dylan Robillard.
How's it going, guys?
How we doing, Dylan? You excited as we are? Matvei is coming.
I'm having an okay hair day, but that's what hats are for. So.
Hey, listen, it's still better than mine. It could be worse. I have a helicopter pad landing right over here. It's getting bad. So don't get old. I've learned the hard way. But yeah, gentlemen, let's get right into this. So Sunday, we got a nice little news drop that according to a few sources, it looks like Matvei Michkov should be expected to forego the final 2 years of his KHL contract and join the Philadelphia Flyers. Not officially yet. I won't be hammering the horn that everything's done. And, there's still some T's to cross and, some I's to dot. But we got the whole money situation still to stand by with this. But looks like we could be getting an ace in the hole, as I just stated prior. Matvei Michkov is likely to join the Flyers this year as long as everything goes well. I'll leave it to you guys first. Jamey, lead us off. What was your first reaction when you heard this news?
I'm not shocked. On your podcast, what was it, a few weeks ago? I really thought that Matvei was coming, and that was what sealed it for me was him wearing a Flyers hockey shirt while working out. And I know it's something small like that, but last year was an orange and black shoes. This year it's the actual Flyers memorabilia. And when he's doing that, why wasn't he wearing SKA? So to me, that just proved right there. I was like, you know what? The signs were pointing there towards an early break last year. And now it just solidified it when he was wearing that shirt and working out. So to be honest with you, I wasn't shocked. And when head coach Roman Rottenberg said that there would be big news in June to drop about Matvei Michkov, I had a feeling. I was like, okay, he's pandering. He's trying to reach out to somebody to say, hey, we could get this done by June if you hurry up. I don't know if that was to the Michkov camp, in general, or to the Flyers and say, now Danny Briere, because Danny, I really believe that they really haven't really talked to Michkov. I don't think Danny would lie about that, since the draft that he really, everything out of Russ is very tough to get. That's including information, that's sourcing. There's only so many sources, good sources. Hockey News Hub is a perfect one. And, we're lucky to have that, type of information coming out of Russia because there's very little that comes out. And that's the thing, the Flyers have to be cautiously optimistic towards this. They just have to let the cards drop and play sort of to SKA's, however fast they want to speed this up, however, terms of legal wise, contract wise, payments wise. But yeah, it's interesting and it gives Flyer fans a lot of hope. And, a lot of Flyer fans breathe, on Sunday, like a sigh of relief. Finally, something good is happening. It seemed to be that the wheels on the bus were falling off a little bit in terms of their off season. You had, Alexei Kolosov news drop, and just some other news drops, and it's just like nothing good was happening, and then all of a sudden a bombshell, and then you have Rotenberg talking on Monday, in an interview saying, hey, we could get this done if the payments, come forth, and stuff like that. So the amount is $400,000. That's according to Hockey News Hub himself. And yeah, I mean, it's a great time to be a Flyers fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that seems like to be the biggest roadblock still on this is the payment of $400,000 that the team cannot pay from what I'm reading. It has to be Matvei Michkov. Now, what I'm reading is what they could do out of this is they can, in a way, kind of reimburse him on whatever his next deal is. I could do it in bonuses in the entry-level contract, or it could eventually lead to whatever his next deal is. Like, say, hey, once it's time to extend you, say we give you X amount, we'll throw an extra $400,000 on it just so we make sure that you get the money back that you deserve. But, yeah. How about you, Dylan? What's your take?
Yeah, to the contract part quick. Yeah, it could easily be put on his signing bonuses or whatever it needed to be, but it's definitely exciting. I've learned to be a little bit more optimistic about stuff recently more than anything, but it's kind of just staying focused right now, and hopefully it does come to be. It's still hard to believe it and kind of envision it happening until he lands in Philly. Same for what was with Kolosov and everyone else, but to see those guys also come over and then this to follow, it helps a lot and it opens a new window for sure. Danny Briere has connections, it seems, everywhere. So it's definitely good for Flyers fans and the city of Philadelphia as a whole, because they've not been exactly happy over the last couple of years, especially with the hockey club. But yeah, we're turning in the right direction. I think Michkov as a whole will be a great piece to the puzzle. I hope fans don't over exaggerate him when he first gets here. I don't want him to be overwhelmed and get buried somehow.
Don't give him ridiculous expectations his first year. Like, realize he's still a 19-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Especially coming overseas too.
Exactly. Still got a lot to go through and stuff, and he's still dealing with a lot. So, but yeah, I'm excited. It's good to hopefully finally see him in the orange and black officially and playing actual NHL games. So I look forward to it.
So for me, I think when this news first dropped, I think this goes back all the way back towards the end of last year. One of my Twitter followers that follows me too, Suitable Elias, I'm sure you both know him on social media. He pointed something out that I found very interesting. That once he said this, I was like, oh, this actually does make sense. The Fedotov contract kind of set the pavement where he could be pretty much kind of set the trail of where he could be, where things could be, what needs to be done. The fact that Danny Briere found to get a guy who was kidnapped by the Russian military pretty much over here is absolutely mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. So the fact that he could do something like that already sets a standard. Like, holy crap, Danny has an incredible connection with the Russian teams out there and in the KHL. And then you had the Kolosov deal happen. I mean, we had the scare that happened earlier in the week. But at the end of the day, all of these things that happened prior kind of just set the building blocks in place for Michkov coming over. And I was optimistic when the news dropped a couple weeks ago that he could be coming over, but I was cautiously optimistic. I was a tad nervous still. I was like, okay, I think there's a real chance this could happen. But at the same time, I don't want to get my hopes too high. But once the news was dropped Sunday, I felt like there's really, at this point, it's well over 90%.
Yeah.
It would have to drop the ball now for this not to happen. Like I said before, the biggest hurdle on this still is the fact that they have to figure out the money compensation of this. because Michkov himself, or his camp at least, has to figure out the financial aspect of this. The Flyers cannot aid, as we stated prior. But I think they'll get over that hurdle. And another thing is, I remember there was an interview earlier in the week where Danny went on to a French podcast, and he stated that, we don't know if he'll ever come over. I don't know. I remember that. But I remember hearing that. It's like, okay. This is Danny just covering his tracks, not saying anything stupid, because he doesn't want to press the wrong buttons here, especially since nothing has been officially done yet. It's better to be as safe as possible with this. But now at this point, and they have to make sure they get the deal done. With all this smoke, it's pretty much fire at this point. They got to make sure they get this done.
They will sign, seal, and deliver Michkov here, and I think that June is a reasonable expectation, if not as early as this weekend. But I think that's why the date of June was given. There's some other legal hurdles, I'm sure, because Rottenberg did explain some legal hurdles too. So it must mean that not just yes, the bulk of it is payments, but there's something else to make sure that they're legal and binding. Maybe in some way how the contract's written. Maybe it has to go to an attorney, and attorneys have to sign off. There could be something else that we might be missing. But nonetheless, you both bring up a great talk about Danny Briere. I mean, look at the respect that he's getting. He got a ton of respect for the Gutter Gauthier situation, and how not one single GM leaked and opened their lips, towards what was happening, because he did say that there were other GMs that knew of the situation and they shut up. That's how much respect he's commanding. And I think that has to stem from the way he acted when he was a player. And now it's rubbing off as a GM. Hey, let's give this guy some he's earned that respect because of what's happened in the past. And now he's swaying Russians to come over here. I mean, this is unfounding. There are some teams that are hesitant to take, even think about taking a Russian. And, but Danny Briere is like, okay, I don't care. He was like, we'll grab the best player available. And if it's a Russian, so be it. We'll take him.
There's one other thing I wanted to mention that was a big clue in all this before everything was developed. Did you notice that Rottenberg never denied anything here?
Yeah.
He never really denied any of these reports or pushed it aside. Like some of these other prospects, I'm hearing Demidov has already been told he's not coming over until after 2025. And he was quick to deny that. There's another prospect out in Carolina, Nitschkin, I think. He's another one that they're saying he's not coming over. He's going to have to finish this. But with Michkov, there was never real any denial with this. That was another real smoke this fire type of signal when it came to this. So at the end of the day, I think, again, this has to be signed, sealed, and delivered.
Yeah. And I wonder if a lot of that has to stem from his dad, too, from his from his dad's death. So if they're doing this because of such, kudos to them, for trying to give him a fresh, change of scenery. If this is really eating him up, and
on a good note, I think it's just because Michkov's that guy. Like, he's the bulk of Russia right now. He is that Russian prospect, and I think that's why it's a lot easier to negotiate with this, because Russian, they take a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for, pride in their players and they produce over there. So if they can have Michkov being that spotlight, like, this kid came from us, just like Ovechkin was, and Malkin, and all things a little bit different, but you get the idea. That's just the face of Russia, basically, to them. So to have him over there in Philly and producing and doing all this stuff, I think that's also what Rottenberg and Russia wants as well.
And I think that just goes to show exactly when they were talking about the potential logistics of this. As you mentioned, him being the pride of Russia, they said he's not allowed to go to the AHL if we end up doing this for these. At bare minimum, not like he'd ever go anyway.
Yeah.
2 years, you have to keep him in the big leagues or he's coming back to SKA, which I think is
Right.
more agreeable. He's going to be playing top 6 minutes likely here. Which leads us into our next point. So the next thing I wanted to talk about when it came to this. So with Michkov coming over, what do you guys see as what could be some potential moves? And does that change how this offseason may end up going? Dylan, let me ask you first, since we had Jamey go in the first part. Do you see the Flyers maybe making a big splash or try to make a splash? Do they wait till 2025 when their cap situation is abundantly better? It's funny I bring that up. I looked at that cap space at the end of 2024. 2025, they're looking at about $35 million in cap. Now, mind you, they'll have some names to sign, but they'll have an abundance of cap. Do you think – would it be better to just wait until next year, or do you maybe try to make a splash now to try to get this guy some instant chemistry and talent to play with?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, I think you have to realize what you have and don't have. It's definitely a bit of addition and subtraction at the same time. You still got to stay put and build around the rebuild and that idea and build for Michkov and build for the future of a cup. And if that's the end goal, and obviously that should be the end goal, as that you would think you would want to try and build a dynasty. I mean, not all teams end up being a dynasty. It's pretty hard to do so, but I think there's still some pieces you can add this year and more into next year. I like the idea of Natchez. Zegras is like I don't see it ever really working out, but like it's another star talent that you could bring in. I think you need to realize what you have on the back end with York and Drysdale. Maybe attend to some of that a little bit, but all in all, there's still just little pieces you need to hit right now. Overall, there's probably some more overwhelming pieces you need to subtract and add to better evolve, I guess is the word. But next year, following this next season, I think is when you start to see more changes. Definitely some still to come, though, I think.
How about you, Jamey? Do you see the Flyers trying to make another big, at least attempt to make maybe one big splash to get this guy some top 6 talent to work with? Or do you think they more stand pat?
Yeah, no, I think they're going to add. I think this speeds up the rebuild by a year to 2 years. I really do. I mean, you think about it. The Flyers weren't supposed to have Matvei Michkov until 2026, 27. So this realistically speeds up the rebuild by 1 to 2 years. And it leads me back to when Keith Jones was first hired as a president of the organization. He said, we're going to build from the net out. So to me, they have 2 goalies now, Sam Merson, Ivan Fedotov. I think that they will use Carter Hart's money that they were going to have to pay Carter Hart this year. Remember, that money is there now because Carter Hart, I don't think they even qualify him, to be honest with you. I'd be highly shocked if they actually at the qualify. But nonetheless, he was going to command anywhere from 4 to 5, maybe 6 million, maybe 7 million, per year. All that money now the Flyers actually have to make a splash. And I think it's actually going to be Sean Walker. I really do. Now, since Michkov's coming over, I can see Walker entering back into the fold just because of the situation ongoing with Jamie Drysdale. They don't know. I think it'll ease Drysdale back. It won't put as much pressure on him because of, the core surgery that he may have to have. There's no indication that he's had the surgery or hasn't had the surgery yet because of obviously all this going on and the draft upcoming. So, and that's what I mean. So, I think that this getting Sean Walker, I think he comes back. I don't think it's going to be for what Sean Walker wants. Maybe it'll be a multi-year deal, maybe just 2-3 years, and maybe bring down the AAV a little bit. I'm not sure. He really loved his time here. I think that he might have a hometown discount he did well with the Avs, but not so much in the playoffs. Fell off a little bit. So I think they're going to think defense. And you know what? I really believe, call me crazy, but I think Tijagin is going to be off the board by 9 when the Calgary Flames select. I have him pegged at 5 with the Habs. I have the Habs taking Tijagin. So if he's off the board, I can see Danny Briere saying, hey, Calgary, who's your guy? Oh, well, we like Cole Eiserman. Okay. You want, hey, you want to trade? We'll trade the 12th pick, for your 9th pick. Of course, there'll be a second round pick attached or something of that nature. Sort of like what the Cam York deal was, with the Flyers moving back and getting a second round pick. Remember that? With moving back and they eventually selected Cam York. I see the same thing, them moving up and snagging Sam Dickinson from the London Knights. Another defenseman entering the mix because they need another creme de la creme, defenseman. And I think that Michkov alters that a little bit because he's here a little earlier than expected. So maybe they don't need to focus, both picks on the forward position. They can say, okay, well, we'll have picks anywhere from, 29 to 32 with Florida's pick, and grab a forward then. I think that a lot of Flyers fans want me to say Martin Nikas, and I love the guy. I really do. But I think with Michkov coming, I think I scratched that because he's a right winger. He played primarily on the wing in Carolina. He's played primarily since he's entered the NHL on the wing as opposed to the center. He can play the center position. But this leads, I really want Michkov to come in, play on the wing because Tortorella is big on playing players on their natural side. I want to leave that. I'm not a fan of grabbing Zegras now either. I want Michkov to be slid to the center position, whether that's a 2C or whether that's a 3C. I don't know if we'll get to a 1 in his rookie season, but I'd like to see him play center at some point for the Flyers organization. I think he can do it. I think that they're crave a center. I can see them easing and letting him ease in as a winger and then eventually moving, whether it's this year or next year. I'd leave that open for him. I would. I'd like to see the Flyers test Michkov at the center position eventually. So I would leave that open. I'd grab a defenseman.
That's a fair point. Before I give my thought, if you haven't noticed, Dylan is no longer with us in the video. He is experiencing some Wi-Fi issues, so he may or may not be joining us for the rest of this. So just wanted to give that heads up to everyone. But yeah, to give my thought. So me personally, I would like the Flyers to potentially go after a top 6 forward as well. Martin Necas has been a name that I wanted for about a month, but I will say I've kind of taken a step back after his comments came out the other day with the interview that he just had. So it sounds like he's requesting a trade out of Carolina. It sounds like it's pretty much a foregone conclusion he's likely not going to be there. But the fact that his father kind of spoke for him and told him he wants to be top 6 minute first power play line. Yeah. I'm not saying it's anything remotely close to, but it kind of gives me a little bit of Cutter Gauthier PTSD. I brought this up on our podcast last night, podcast, episode 29. But yeah, I get a little bit of Cutter Gauthier PTSD.
Yeah.
Another name that would be interesting out in Buffalo would be potentially Dylan Cousins. I think he'd fit well in. I think he's more of a 2C, but he would probably be your 1C if you were to acquire him. Yeah. He does a lot of little things on the ice that don't get noticed, and I think he is a pretty good scorer in general. Maybe he's part of like a Scott Laughton package because Laughton sounds like a perfect fit for Buffalo if you wanted to do a multiple piece trade with them. That's another guy I'd consider acquiring. And, there's even maybe even like a dart throw. One guy, our co-host on the Pucking Around group, Cam mentioned Sean Monahan would be an interesting name. He definitely wouldn't be a 1C to me, but he could potentially have some 2C potential. I think he had 26 goals last season, had about a 60-point season. So that's respectable for a 2C. He is 29, so the age is a bit concerning. The guy could take a step back sooner rather than later. So that's a name I consider, but he'd be more on the lower end of my list. But Martin
Yeah.
H is my personal number one guy that I'd go for. But
There's certain teams to pay attention to. You mentioned a few. Vegas won't be able to keep everybody either.
that
So
is true.
that they are. I mean, that they won't. They just won't. But they also have to improve in some areas as well. So Vegas is definitely there's a link there, and I think that there was always a link there because of taking on Noah Hanifin's contract, part of his contract to broker the deal. I think that Danny Briere again has some strong ties to that organization, and historically, if you look, the Flyers in Vegas, tend to deal well, together in general. There's a respect level there that's always been there since Vegas has entered the league. I also look at the Utah team. There's going to be some Utah players that possibly want out that aren't a fan. I think a lot of them are gravitating towards the area now, but still you might have those two, select few. I also agree with the Buffalo Sabres organization, and don't forget about Ottawa. I'm really high on Shane Pinto. So if that's a
That'd be a good
center,
middle six guy, I think.
you,
He could
you
be a
know,
good
the Flyers are going to have to improve on the power play. I think Michkov eventually will improve the power play eventually, just because of his skill alone and his skill set. But I think if you grab a player like Shane Pinto, or what if they get sexy and go after Brady Tkachuk, or something of that nature, that'd be a nice curveball in there. But pay attention to Ottawa. Ottawa's really gonna, and they're loaded with picks. They got, 2-3 picks in the first round alone.
At 2 first rounds this year, you're going to have one or two second round picks. If you have one this year, you're going to have 3 next year. You'll have Columbus and the Ducks next year, which will probably both be bad picks again. So.
Yeah, and if you think about it, Scott Lawton makes sense over in Ottawa as well. You're looking, his best friend plays over there. Claude Giroux and Scott Lawton are they're best friends. And I think that Ottawa would definitely be a team to look out for in terms if they are looking to grab a center. Maybe they flop, Lawton and Pinto, and then the Flyers add, maybe a pick or something on there, or something attached or something of that nature. But I think Danny Briere is going to get creative, and I really like the. They're definitely going to add. Yeah, that's for sure.
This is not going to be the final roster. I definitely anticipate.
No.
My prediction, like I said about a month ago in our watch party, I'm going to stick with it. And I think Martin H ends up in Philadelphia. It's bold, I know, but I think he wants top 6 minutes. He'd be a guy that can really help on the power play. I know he's played more right wing than center, but I feel like there's a path for him to at least flip-flop the position. And if he doesn't, you can always move him back to wing, even at left wing too, if you got it. But
I'm very temper my expectation on that now, because I'm not a fan of family coming out and speaking out against an organization. That really scares me. Not Nikas himself, because Nikas is a grown adult. He's an adult. He can say whatever he wants. If he wants out, look. There's plenty of other players throughout the NHL that have requested trades and stuff. Pierre-Luc Dubois, for one. It feels like every city he goes to, he has, at some point, he's a very talented player, a very good player. But it just seems like there's something, and he's always requesting. Fine, he's a grown adult, but he doesn't have his mom or dad come on and say, hey, he needs to move on. It's just a slap in the face to the organization, and it really, yes, he's a really good player, and I'd like to see him in Orange and Black too, but I'm a little more reserved on that now, ever since that transpired.
Like I mentioned, it kind of gave me some
and that's it might be a heat of passion because it happened, right thereafter, they lost, and stuff. So it might just been a passionate, but still, that I'm a little reserved, but that's just me.
That's a very fair point, because like I said, I even mentioned it too. My excitement for him kind of went from this maybe about this.
Mm.
It definitely watered it down a little bit. But anyway, so let's move on to a third and final talking point. So with that being said, let's give a little bit of a prediction for the end for Michkov. So I gave last night on the Pucking Around podcast group, I gave a point prediction of 20 goals, 31 assists. I gave him about a 51-point year. I didn't want to go too crazy.
That's great.
I wanted to be realistic, but
Yeah.
it was a pretty instant impact. I might even bring it up a little bit to 54, 55 points after sleeping on it. Nothing insane, but because the more I think about it, the more I look at it, I think a line of him, Frost, and Tippett would be absolutely exceptional.
I mean,
you have a guy like Frost that pretty much is probably the best play creator on that team.
Yeah.
And then you have a guy like Owen Tippett who shoots the puck like it's going out of style. And he, just being on the line with him alone is going to get him probably 20 apples by itself.
Yeah. That's a hell of a line. I like that line. My point prediction is a little lower, believe it or not. I have him at around 40 to 45. I'd say he plateaus at 45. I say like 19 goals, 26 assists, and I think the assists are going to be a lot of power play assists. I really think he's going to help on at the very least on the PP2, because I don't think they're going to be overly aggressive and try him at PP1 right away. That's just my that's just me. I don't want to put the bar too high for him, and like you said, get fans' expectations. Oh man, this is a 100-point player. It's very rare that prospects come in the NHL and just overall succeed with 70 to 100
it'll
points.
Definitely take some time. I think
it'll take a few years, but he is going to be a phenomenal player. It's going to be a 100-point player eventually, but it's not going to be his rookie season. I see him struggling a bit in terms of adapting to the ice, adapting to the atmosphere. There's going to be a MichkovMania. You're going to see door-to-door people at training camp. There's going to be there's going to be a lot of pressure on this young man, and it has nothing to do.
Witnesses going door to door asking, "Can I tell you about my Lord and Savior Matvei Michkov?"
Yes. There's going to be a lot of pressure on him, and I think that eventually, at some point, the pressure may get to him for 8, 9, 10 games, and he'll be in a drought. And then he'll snap out of that funk, and a rookie wall. So, and I think that every prospect typically goes through something like that. So I don't want to get my hopes and Flyers fans' hopes, but I think more towards 45, 19 goals, 26 assists. But I like him on the line. Like you said, Frost, I'm 100% with. He's the best creator on the team, on the roster right now, on paper. I would definitely put him and Frost together, just be insane. But I like Forrester with him. I think that he's a good balance on that line. Forrester doesn't miss the net much. Not taking anything away from Owen Tippett, but Tippett's a good player. But yeah, I'd like either line. If they had Tippett, Michkov, Tippett, Frost, Michkov, or I like Forrester because he played left wing. He could play either wing. Frost, of course, down the middle, and Michkov. I think Tortorella is big on putting her. He said it from day one when he was hired, when he was asked a question about Morgan Frost. There was I forget what media member asked if he was willing to move Morgan Frost to the wing because that was a hot topic then. A lot of Flyers fans wanted Frost on the wing as opposed to at the center position, and he said no. I'm going to try him out at the center position and see how he does. He was like, he's a firm believer in having these guys play multiple seasons, not just one season, but multiple seasons in their natural position to see how they work out. And I think that's what he's going to do to Michkov. I see, but towards the tail end of the season, I can see them moving him to center and playing center.
So let's go one final step forward with this before we wrap this up. How would you put the lines together? Let's see. Michkov is a Flyer. Let's make the lines. Let's have some fun with this.
Oh man, you go first.
All right. So I'm going to pretend that we acquire Martin Necas. I don't know if it's happening. This is just going to be for fun. I'll go that first line. I think they're going to move Couturier back to the 1C to start once he has some time to. I think this offseason is going to be good for him to refine his game and try to, because I think he was exhausted that second half of the year. They ran him into the ground, and they're going to have to manage his minutes better, which I hope they do. Keep him to a 16, 17 minute a night guy. That could definitely pay off in that second half of the season. I'm going to go Forster, Couturier, Konechny would be my first line.
Okay. My top line would be Farabee. I'm with you on Coots, and I would have TK.
My second line, I would go. I'm going to say that line I created of Tippett, Necas. I mean, not Necas. Sorry, Tippett, Frost, Michkov will be my second line to start. Until Michkov finds his game, then you might want to eventually push him towards that first right wing spot. But for now, just not to overwhelm the kid, we'll start him at the 2RW. I'm going to make this assumption that Scott Lawton has moved and to acquire Necas, Joel Farabee has moved. These are just, again, assumptions.
Man, now you're getting sexy here, man.
I got to have some fun with it. We're playing hypotheticals. I'm going to go with that Hathaway, Paling, Cates line that they had last year. That combo really seemed to have some chemistry, especially Hathaway and Cates. But those two, I don't know if that would be the third or the fourth line because you got a few extra guys to really work in there. But that Hathaway, Cates, Paling line really had some chemistry, like I said, especially Hathaway and Paling. They worked well together. It just seems like those two really got along last year. I just want to, before I move on any further, they were like this. They had instant chemistry. They had nothing but good things to say about each other. I think those two are kind of like inseparable at this point when it comes to actually being line mates. You can alternate them being that third or fourth pair realistically. And then the fourth line, I think Delorier will be back in the lineup. He'll probably be your left wing. And then they might make I'm probably missing a guy or two. I'm trying to go off the top of my head who the heck I might be missing on that line.
It's hard because like I told you, like my top line I would have Farabee, Coots, and TK, but then I have Tippett, Coots, and TK, and then my third line I have set in stone and would be Forster, Frost, and Michkov. I don't want to set the bar too high for Michkov, nor do I want to set the bar too high for Forster or Frost, either. But I can see Frost, Forster possibly moving up to that, top, because I have the 2LW, I have blank. Because I don't know, I would have Farabee as a question mark there because I don't know how they're going to. I have Pinto as my 2C, and then I have Pinto. See, I forgot the 2 right wing there too. Hold on, let me pull up this roster. Do you hear me?
Yeah, sorry about that. Continue.
No, so I had my 2 left wing blank, and then I had Pinto, and then I forget who. Let me pull the roster up here because I'm with you. I don't want to miss. I had everything like laid out. I should have actually wrote everything down, but so
You lag out there?
me?
Yeah,
I'm
you're
still here.
frozen on my screen.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm still here.
That's all right. Yeah, let's we'll wrap this up. Just when you have it ready, just give me those lines because I got, unfortunately I have a little prearranged thing I got to take care of. But
Oh, here we go.
there we go.
There we go. So I have Farabee, Coots, TK, 2LW. I have blank. Pinto, Tippett, and then I got Forrester, Frost, Michkov, and then Hathaway, Paling, and Cates. And I have Delorier. I have Delorier on the bench. I have that 2LW. That 2LW is a blank for me because I don't know exactly what the Flyers are going to acquire to acquire a piece like Pinto, if it's Nikas, something. So I had that blank for now. But that's what that threw me off, that curveball. So I apologize.
No,
so I had to go back and I'm looking and I'm like, but I could see maybe, like Bobby Brink, I could see, maybe a prospect, makes the team, like Bobby Brink again, for instance. Yeah. And if Bobby Brink makes it, then I think, it could be Brink, Frost, and Michkov, and then Forrester as the 2LW. So I think that there's, competition there. If they're not able to fill that, or if Farabee is traded, I don't know. I'm iffy right now. It's hard to. I just have that as blank. You know what? For your podcast, I'll put Forrester, Pinto, and Tippett, and then I'll have Brink, Frost, Michkov as my as the line when Michkov comes.
Beautiful. All right.
So I apologize about that.
Oh, that's all good. I think that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. I appreciate you coming on, Jamey. Such short notice. We had to do this emergency episode. We plan on doing another one in about 2 weeks from now. So thank you all for showing up. I appreciate it. Jamey, thank you all. Thank you for coming aboard. Dylan, you as well. Unfortunately, like I said, we lost him about 15 minutes in due to some Wi-Fi technical issues. But Jamey, you're always a pleasure. Hopefully we'll have you on 2 weeks from now if you're willing to come on.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Go Chikov. I like that, man. I like that. That's a heck of a name. That's a heck of a name.
Awesome.
Again, I do have a soft heart for the Habs.
Yeah. Save it for them. All right, gentlemen. That'll be it for tonight. Thank you all for tuning in for another episode of Flyer Gonna Flyer. We will see you next time. Take care, everyone. Sorry about that. If it's